Hello. Today we are honored to have Mr. David Coleman, Minister of Immigration, Citizenship and Multicultural Affairs, joining us in Sydney today. Hi, Mr. Coleman.
Hello.
It is an absolute honor to have you here today. I understand that you were appointed as the Minister of Immigration, Citizenship and Multicultural Affairs in late August this year. Besides your new role, you're also Liberal Party representative for Banks, and Banks has one of the largest Chinese population in Australia.
Yeah.
Do you think this particular experience has brought you some advantages into your new current position? Do you think it helps you to connect with the Chinese community better in Australia as well?
Sure. Well, look, yeah, I have a very multicultural electorate here in Banks. About 30,000 people in Banks are of Chinese background, and we've got 1.2 million Australians of Chinese background. So, working over the years with local people in the Chinese Australian community, local community groups has been a really positive thing. And of course, we've got lots of other multicultural communities in Banks as well. But there are some very positive things going on in the local Chinese community. Lots of very strong community organisations involved in helping out people in need. A lot of great educational initiatives. Lots of artistic initiatives and so on. So yeah, it's been a good aspect of my role, but working with lots of other multicultural groups as well.
Sure. Yes. So could you share some of your insights about the Chinese community in Australia?
Sure.
How do you perceive the current multicultural environment?
Sure. Well, I think Australia is the greatest multicultural nation in the world. Our history is one of immigration. We have a non-discriminatory immigration policy. We welcome people based on what they bring to Australia, regardless of their cultural background. And that's a real strength for us. And in my electorate is a prime example of that. So we should be very strongly speaking about the benefits of multiculturalism. This has been a very good thing for Australia. And in my electorate, you see that through the involvement of, say, the Chinese community. An organisation I often talk about is called Can Revive, that based in Hurstville, that provides support to families in the Chinese community affected by cancer. It's been doing that for decades, and it's a fantastic organisation that's helped thousands of people. And there are so many of those examples. We see many groups, Chinese community groups with an artistic focus in fields like painting and dance and education. And also we see a lot of exchange where people from Australia visit China, groups from China come to Australia, and those people-to-people links are a really positive thing because they help to build the relationship.
Of course. So as the new minister, what will be your main focus of the immigration policies?
Well, look, the immigration policy must always match the needs of Australia. It's our program and it must reflect our priorities. And so there's a number of important priorities. One is the economic benefits of migration. Now, skilled migration has a very positive economic benefit for the country. 1 in 3 small businesses in Australia are operated by a migrant, 1 in 3. And it's been estimated that about 1.4 million people work for a small business that's owned by a migrant. So that just shows the positive impacts of immigration economically. The other important issue is that our immigration program needs to match our regional needs. So at the moment we have a situation where we've got regions of Australia effectively calling for more population, calling for more immigration to fill jobs that are unfilled at the moment. And so one of the things that I'm looking at is how can we structure our immigration system to better match those regional needs. And that's an issue right across Australia, in rural Victoria, rural New South Wales, Queensland and other places.
So as you just mentioned, a few weeks back, the Morrison government did introduce a new plan to relocate, settle new migrants in regional areas up to 5 years after their arrival in Australia. How do you think that will impact potential migrants, and in this particular case, Chinese migrants?
Well, look, as I said, that's something that we're reviewing the issue of regional migration at the moment, and that's something that I'm looking at very closely. As I said, the key issue is that the migration program needs to match the needs of the nation. And at the moment, the migration program isn't fully matching those requirements in regional areas. So what we want to do is ensure in the future that the program does a better job of that. So at the moment, for instance, we're negotiating what are called designated area migration agreements with a number of regions around the country. So Kalgoorlie in Western Australia, where there's a significant number of mining jobs available, Warrnambool in Victoria, Cairns in far north Queensland, and a number of other places.
There's huge demand in these areas.
That's right. And so what we want to do is make sure that the migration system helps to fill that unmet demand. We did something similar in the agriculture sector, where for this summer we've revised the rules in relation to various programs to help agriculture to fill unmet jobs.
Great. So in 2018, the Immigration Department has put on another 150 staff in order to process more applications. What are some of the considerations the government had when you introduced such a new change? Will you consider to introduce other similar controls and policies that will potentially benefit migrants and visa applicants?
Yeah, well, there's two really important points here. The first point is we've got to make sure, of course, that our immigration system has very strong checking processes and security processes and integrity processes. Back in 2014, the government introduced some increased measures in that area, and they've been very effective. So that's the first point, and we'll continue to do that because we'll always focus on the integrity of the program. But of course, we also want to ensure that the applications are processed in as efficient a manner as possible. We've seen a significant increase in citizenship applications processed in the first 3 months of this financial year compared to last financial year, and that's a reflection of the work that's being done to focus on those operational processes. So it's security, integrity, absolutely critical, and also being as efficient as possible in assessing the applications.
Great. So at the same time, the government has cancelled 457 visa and instead introduced 482 visa. Could you please explain what's the main difference between the two and whether this change potentially will bring benefits for potential applicants and visa applicants and migrants?
Absolutely. Well, look, what we saw under the previous Labor government was that the 457 visa program was exploited, that there were people that were coming in that wasn't appropriate, and the system, which is meant to simply fill skill shortages, was actually doing a lot more than that. So what we've replaced it with is the temporary skills shortage visa, and this is really focused on ensuring that we're filling the skills, temporary skills shortages, and it's also generally based at a higher skill level. So the salary level for the temporary skill shortage people visa is about $15,000 higher on average than under 457s. So there's still those opportunities, but they're targeted on skilled vacancies where the country really needs it, whereas previously the 457 system was not well managed by the previous government.
Understood. Many international students often complain about the regular adjustments to immigration policies during their enrollment, which may impact their potential plan to apply for permanent residency. They found it pretty unfair since certain courses were part of the scoring system to start with. How do you perceive this issue? Will the government consider to address this issue in the future?
Look, the first thing I'd say on international students is that education is a very, very important export industry for Australia. And in fact, our third largest export industry is education. And put that in perspective for you, Australia generates more than $30 billion a year in export income from education, from beef exports, big industry, $7 billion. So that shows how important education is. Now, 84% of students who come to Australia to study return home. And so the vast majority of people are here to study and then return home. And that's why offering very high quality courses, which we do here in Australia, is so important. And the focus will continue to be on providing very high quality education experiences, courses that attract the best and brightest students from around the world. It's been a very successful area for Australia, and we'll seek to ensure that it continues to be.
Of course. Besides the challenges that many of us face during the application process, some of us also struggle with the parent visa after we get our PR. A lot of us a younger Chinese are the only child in the family. So it's very important for us to reunite with our parents in Australia. How do you take on this issue?
Yeah, well, look, we do have a program for parent visas within the system, and you know, thousands of parents do come to Australia every year under the system. However, the primary focus of our immigration system is on skilled migration, and the reason, and who tend to be younger people in the workforce. And the reason we focus on skilled migration is that's the best outcome for the Australian economy, because skilled migrants, they bring those skills, they generally work in jobs that generate tax income, which then can be reinvested by the government in services. And skilled workers often are the sort of people that start businesses and end up employing people and so on. So parent visas are important, and we have a number of different parent visa categories, but it is correct that the majority of the program is focused on skilled migration.
Understood. So moving on to the more general question, how do you perceive the bilateral relationship between China and Australia?
Well, look, I think Australia's relationship with China is a very important relationship. It's our largest trading partner, of course. We have 1.2 million Australians of Chinese background in Australia, and very strong people-to-people links between our countries. We see that in fields like education, we see that in fields like the arts, tourism, of course. We've been had a very significant increase in tourism from China to Australia, which has been really good for the Australian economy. So very, very broad and positive relationship. In any relationship between two nations, there will always be some issues on which there are different views, but certainly the relationship is a very important one.
Great. So just before we wrap up, is there anything else you would like to say to the 700K audiences here in Sydney today, just before we finish this interview?
Well, look, just to note that Australia is the greatest multicultural country in the world. We have benefited enormously from people immigrating to Australia from all parts of the world, including China, and our multicultural heritage is something we should be very proud of. Our immigration heritage is something we should be very proud of. And in this role, I will be continuing to focus on the importance of multicultural Australia and the benefits of multiculturalism to the Australian community.
Great. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.